If they running their mouth, then they looking for trouble. Ran right up in the knowledge, now they back in the huddle. See, they know we can fight, new content every week. Me and Dr. Clyde, keep on bringing the heat. Now they know they we driven, and they know we quitting. Yoshi and the winner, keep on bringing the energy. Unity. See, they know we ain't stopping, and they know they got problems, and they ran out of options. If they know we got a problem, can't let it go unsolved. Bring back learner, Afrocentric history, we see tomorrow. Karma's karma, I say what I say, I hear underwater. Till I see I fall off, then I bring y'all up on note. I'm back up on my Clyde winners, 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 divine winters, Clyde winters, mind bender, Clyde winters, I'm Richard, ride with ya, master teacher, create masters, Clyde winters, give respect to the elder, Clyde winters.
We have to live by the law. We have to live by the law. I have not done wrong. I have not robbed. I have not stolen. I have not drank. I have not told lies. I have not stolen food. I was not stolen. I have not fornicated with the fornicator. I have not caused anyone to weep. I have not dissembled. I have not transgressed. I have not discussed secrets. I have brought no lawsuits. I am not wrong. I am not struck kill. I am not transgressed the law. I have not been hunted. Except when I'm talking about on the song. I have not made extolling. I have not bragged. I have not cursed. I have not been violent. I have not confounded truth. I have not been impatient. I have not cursed against.
Dr. Winter's legacy is a testament to the power of knowledge and the unyielding spirit of exploration. His impact is felt worldwide, as he shares and enlightens at conferences, symposiums, and collaborative projects. His voice is a beacon in the academic world, challenging, inspiring, and always educating. His journey reminds us that the quest for knowledge is never-ending, and its impact is timeless. Dr. Winters teaches us to challenge the narratives and to learn with an open mind. As he always says, B1 is not a group, it's a lineage. Let his story inspire everybody to pursue knowledge relentlessly and to always seek the truth. Now let us welcome in the grandfather of research, the Trill OG himself, the Honorable Dr. Clyde Winter.
Oh. What up, though? I heard somebody was looking for me. What up, though, family? How you doing, JP? Nade, what up, though? Craig Hawkins, what up, though? Serious B, what up, though? You know, today's been kind of an interesting day here in Chicagoland. It's kind of raining. It's kind of, a little frustrating out here because the fact is this is that there's, it's very cloudy, things like that. And that makes it a little bit negative because I couldn't get my melanosynthesis this morning. I couldn't go out there and get the sun and get the power, baby. But, I've been thinking today. I've been thinking a lot today. And I was thinking about this whole idea of reality, truth, and respect. What I meant by that is that I was thinking about the fact that whenever you're in a relationship, how you doing, Joan? Whenever you're in a relationship, it's very interesting in the sense that your partner is supposed to have their private attitudes, thoughts, ideas, and you have your private attitudes, thoughts, and ideas. But sometimes in a sense, I think that in any relationship, it's kind of hard because sometimes you have to make decisions based upon your relationship with your partner. Okay. Sometimes if your partner wants to do something that you don't want to do, then a lot of times in a sense you may go along with it, you know. And then a lot of times, sometimes your partner may keep secrets, but is that really wrong? I really wonder sometimes, is that wrong? I think about the fact that I know that when you have children, I always tell my wife that, I mean, hey, if the kids tell you something, then you don't have to always tell it to me if you promise them that you're not going to tell. If they tell me something and they ask me to promise not to tell, I'm not going to tell you either. But then at the same time, you think about that is that you're giving respect to your child, you're giving respect to your partner's due diligence and your partner's relationship that they may have with your children, you know. And so then this is very important. I think it's very important, and I think that's the one thing that many of us forget is that you have to show respect to your partner. And the best way to show respect to your partner is to allow them to be able to hold secret whatever they feel should be secret. But then at the same time, it's how do you really in a sense, how are you able to really solidify, to really show a relationship. And the thing is this is I think back to the fact is that my baby doll, my wife, before every day I would tell her I love you. Every day I would do whatever I could to give her whatever she wanted. I wanted her in a sense to feel wanted, you see. But the thing is this is that at the same time, when you're a man dealing with a woman, one of the problems is that your mate, your partner always wants your attention. But at the same time, your mate or partner may want your attention. Sometimes you feel that I have to be a man, and I still have to stand on things in a sense. I still might have to do things. My father, for example, always told me that if you ever get married, I think I've said this before. 3 things: don't tell them how much you don't tell them how much you make, never come home at the same time, and stuff like that. But at the same time, your partner, your woman expects some regularity. Your woman wants to see regularity. But my father, he taught me that you can't always in a sense that you shouldn't always show regularity, because then if you maybe go off schedule or go off and do something else, and there can be problems in the relationship. But I think that's very important, very important. And then I think about that that when you're asked not to tell, when you're asked by your children not to tell your mate, when you've done by your children that you should keep something in confidence. This is that you should always try to make sure that you keep your word. And see, that's the most important thing. I had 5 boys and 1 girl, and I always tried to teach my children, especially my sons, because I felt that, how you doing, Zachary? I felt that my wife, in a sense, she should, be the one to instruct, my daughter on how she should behave. But I always told my sons that the most important thing for them in the world was always keep their word. I taught them that you're nothing. You're nothing if you make a promise and you don't keep a promise. You're nothing if you don't, in a sense, stand behind your word. That your word is who you are. because I wanted my sons to grow up and understand that integrity comes from living the life, or living your truth. You see, in other words, in a sense, is that if you stand on something, you should believe in it. For example, I always had the concept of fee feasibly Allah, feasibly Allah. You know, and what that is that it's translated in the service of God. I felt that my role. How you doing, Liddy? I felt that my role as a human being was to be of service to God, be of service to the Creator, be of service to the Almighty. Therefore, I felt that you had to have a certain amount of discipline. You had to have a certain amount of discipline that you should live on. You know, and as a result, when I was young, I used to always say, I would never lie. And my mother-in-law used to say, "You're going to lie one day," and I said, "I'm not going to lie." Period. You see, but again, living in the white man's world and trying to survive and trying, in a sense, to get things for your family, you end up lying. And this is one of the things that makes it very, very hard. It makes it hard on you because, see, you want to have the discipline. You want to have, in a sense, the discipline to make sure that you stand on what you believe in, you see. And you do try to do this, but it's very difficult because in this world of white supremacy, they make you have to lie sometimes, not only to support yourself, but also to support your family. They make you have to lie sometimes because the fact is that it's through your relationships, it's through understanding, it's through listening that you learn and you grow. And I think that this is a very important thing to keep in mind. So again, as I said, it's been interesting today because I've been thinking about those things. I was thinking about I had looked at this video and these former football players, they were talking about their life, they were talking about their relationships, and then one of the football players, Shannon Sharp, and he was talking to I think it's Ocho, and so he's talking to him, and Ocho was saying, "Well, I haven't had sex with my wife in 2 weeks, because I asked her to. I woke up one day at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I asked her to cook breakfast, and she wouldn't cook breakfast, so I was angry at her, and so then I said, that's very interesting, how you doing, D. Foster, and because why is it that when you're in a relationship, that it's always a power move, it's always in a sense an idea where you may feel the other party, your partner is taking you for granted, and so then when I think about that, that if I woke up and I wanted breakfast, I wouldn't ask my wife. I wouldn't have asked my wife to cook breakfast at 4 a.m. I just wouldn't have asked her that. But then Ocho, he had the right to ask his wife to do that. He had the right to be mad about it. But see, that's the whole point, is that sometimes we forget that each man, each woman, in their relationship with their partners, is certain things that they expect, is certain things that they want, you see. And yet at the same time, often we want to take for granted that yes, I know your limits. I know your limits, baby. But why do I want to stand on that? Isn't that silly? Isn't that silly, family? That you know the limits of your partner, you know the limits of your mate, and yet sometimes you still want to cross that precipice. You still want in a sense cross that cliff, Don't get mad at me, but this is what I told my sons. I said that. I told my sons that whenever you're dealing in a sense whenever you're dealing with a woman, is that a woman, she wants to always see a rise in her man. She wants to see a rise in her man. She wants to see, in a sense, some emotionalism. This rise, most women either want to see their man have an erection or see their man engage in an argument with them. You see, and so what you find is that because of the fact that when you're in a relationship with a woman, that your woman wants you to sometimes, in a sense, get angry. They want you sometimes, in a sense, to be angry, And a lot of times you're not really angry. You don't even want to be angry. But because of the fact that over time, as I told my sons, is that because of the fact that you understand that a woman wants to see that rise in you, either they want to see you get an erection or they want you in a sense to get in an argument, then sometimes you have to be prepared to argue, even though you may not really want to argue. But you may, in a sense, engage in an argument just so, in a sense, just so that you're making feel good. That sounds silly, doesn't it? Yeah, it sounds very silly to me. But again, I'm looking at it from a male perspective. I remember I used to go to I mentioned this before, I used to go to my grandmama's house. And my grandmama, she used to live with my Aunt Mabel. And I always looked up to my Aunt Mabel because my Aunt Mabel was so warm. My Aunt Mabel was all of them were classy, because they were Catholics. So they was classy, we were Baptists, so you know how that is. But anyway, my grandma, my great uncle. And I used to always love to go to my grandma's house because my Aunt Mabel, she always had this picture. And she always had a picture when she visited Egypt. And she always had this picture when she's sitting on a camel in front of the pyramid. So that always made me have a longing to want to know about Black history. Made me have a longing, in a sense, to maybe experience the world, maybe through travel and stuff like that, you see. But then one day I came over to my grandma's house, and Aunt Mabel, she was crying. And I said, what's wrong, Aunt Mabel? Come on, what's wrong, Aunt Mabel? What's wrong? What can I help you? Can I do whatever you need done? And she said, Clyde, just calm down. Just come back in a couple of minutes. So I left her room and I came back in a couple of minutes and she said, Clyde, she said, I'm a woman. And sometimes as a woman, I just want to cry. It doesn't mean that I'm upset about anything. It doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong or anybody else has done anything wrong. But I'm a woman. And because I'm a woman, I feel I have a right to do some things that I want. And that stuck with me. That stuck with me, that stuck with me. For example, like my wife, she said she always wanted a job. So when we first got married, she worked at the post office. But after that, she never got another job. But I always made sure that we always had 3 bank accounts. She had a bank account, I had a bank account, and then we had a joint account, because I always felt that a woman should have her own money. She should be able to do what she want to do, and I felt that was very important in a sense. And I felt that her money was her money. She could use it any way she wished. I just was saying, damn, as long as you ain't spitting on them other, out there. But anyway, I doubt if she ever did that. But I always felt in a sense that your woman has to be independent. You had to respect your woman. And that was what drove me, But then at the same time, I know I brought this up before, is that as a man looking from the outside, you always just wonder, hey, what's going on in that mind? What's going on in her mind? And that's very selfish. And the reason that is very selfish is because of the fact that you should respect people and people should be able to think anything they wish. You shouldn't even want to be part of trying to seek an understanding. Well, you want to seek an understanding, but you shouldn't want to, in a sense, be privy to their thoughts. And because they may be thinking about wanting to kick your ass or something like that, or they may be thinking about something that you don't want them to think about. So I think that's important, and and this is just one of those things. And so I was just thinking about that today: reality, respect, and privacy. You see, and I think that in a real relationship, you have to, in a sense, respect your partner. And by respecting your partner, you have to allow them to have a sense of privacy. That may be not only in the sense privacy in relationship to some of the things that they're doing and how they relate to your children, but they also, in a sense, need privacy and respect, given an understanding that whatever they think about is their own personal privacy. And I think that that's the hard thing as a man trying to live and survive with your partner who's, and I think that, but at the same time, I think that's what gives a relationship, it's it's fire, it's emotion. But I think because the fact is this is that to me, I remember I hear a lot of people, they talk about that love is everything. No, I've never believed that love is everything. What I believed is that respect is everything. If you respect your partner and your partner respects you, I think that you have a greater outcome, a better outcome, you know. Because I used to think about my father, he would talk about people, and he would talk about guys on his job. He did construction. And he would talk about guys on his job. And these guys on his job, they would work all the time. And then one day they would come home. Then when they would lose their jobs, their wives would quit them, or their wives would leave them, or they would just come home sometime and the wife is gone with all the furniture and everything and stuff like that. And so then that made me think that relationships are always variable. Relationships can have problems, you see. But I also felt, even though I was a teenager, and then when I started working with him, I did construction with him a couple of summers when I was a freshman in college, freshman summer. But anyway, I worked with him a couple of times on construction jobs when I was home for vacation, around Christmas and over the summer, and I always thought about the fact is that what do you do what do you do? What do you do when your wife is saying that you're not giving them enough attention? You see. Same time your wife may be saying, "Hey, you're not giving me enough attention. You should give me more attention." But then you have to go to work. And you know that you had to work a lot of hours to be able to make maybe the money to be able to take care of your family. So you may do overtime and all that type of stuff. But then your wife may be complaining, you're doing all this overtime and you're not spending enough time with me, but at the same time, you need to do the overtime so you can make money so that y'all can have a good life. You see, and so it's complicated, I didn't have that problem because as a teacher, we worked the same time every day, 8:30. When I started, what was it? Started 8:30, then 2:30 you go home. Then later, in a sense, the Board of Education in Chicago felt that we should work longer. So you start at 8:30, get off at 3:15. Okay. But the thing is that so I didn't have that problem. But I think about that sometimes because, see, the greatest fear for any man is when your wife says, "I want to find myself." I remember when my wife said, "I want to find myself." And so I said, we've been married. We've been married we've been married around 20 years. Oh, where do I fit in? This is what I thought in my mind, because how I'm just trying to go along with the program. She says, I want to find myself. But as a man, you're hearing your wife say that, and then you say to yourself, damn, where do I fit in? What's the future for me? See, But the point is is that I guess she found herself, because we ended up still being married for 50 years. So I guess she found herself, whatever she was looking for. But but then it gets back to what I was thinking about today, is that to summarize that in any relationship, you have to respect your partner. In any relationship, you have to allow your partner to have privacy. In any relationship, you have to allow your partner to be who they are whenever they want to be who they are. You have to allow them, in a sense, to have their own secrets, their private thoughts, And then I think it's better, because then I think that you can have room for a relationship. You can have room, in a sense, to communicate, because I think communication does not mean, in a sense, that you have to know everything that your partner is thinking. But I think communication comes best when you learn to listen, because it's through learning to listen that you can grow. It's through learning to listen that you can be all that you can be. But anyway, that's just some of my thoughts today. Now let's get cracking into the subject and what we're going to really talk about. So let's get started. Give me a few minutes to get started. Yes, the origin and the spread of the black race. Black people inhabited every continent. Every continent. You see, wherever the European went, he found black people. Whenever they do archaeological research, they find in a sense the discovery of artifacts that show that black people were here, there, Russia, England, China, and the Americas. And yet, even though black people are everywhere, you constantly hear Europeans, in a sense, telling you, in a sense, that you're lying. You see, But what I've been finding out now is that we really don't know the definition of black. The majority of us, we always feel that black is just a crayon color. And because we feel that black is a crayon color, we always see black, yes, as in a sense, color or race or whatever. But the meaning of black is much more deeper than that. It's much, much more deeper. The origin and spread of the black race. The slides are going to be in my Patreon. Please join my Patreon to see the slides. As I tell you, my Patreon members, they give me ideas. Like I got this idea from one of my Patreon members. They wanted me to really go into where did black people come from? How did black people expand? And I can do this research because the fact is that I'm supported by my Patreon. My Patreon members, they provide me with the monies to be able to go and find books and articles that are behind a paywall. Yes, behind a paywall. They allow me, in a sense, to be able to purchase time to read these books or read these articles. So I appreciate very much the love and respect that my Patreon members, give me. I appreciate the fact that they're ready to support me. It's only $5 a month. It's only $5 a month. You see, I mean, hell, if you go to Starbucks and you get a caramel macchiato venti, that was my wife's favorite coffee. If you go to Starbucks and get a caramel macchiato venti, that's about $7. And then downtown, if you get one downtown, they add a couple more dollars on it and stuff like that. And so then that's less than you may pay for your daily coffee if you go to work every day. You see? So please please join my Patreon. Help me to be able to continue to do this research. Help me to be able to continue to bring you the latest research. And you're going to find that whenever I do my presentations, I try to bring the latest research that's available. Thank you for being here on my YouTube site. This is where I have over 300 videos. Yes, over 300 videos. These videos touch on every aspect of Black history. Many of you guys come here every week and you listen to my live, but you're really cheating yourself. You're really cheating yourself. You should be looking at some of the other videos I have on this channel. You look at some of the other videos I have on this site, and you could learn, you could become an expert in many aspects of the history of Black and African people by looking at my videos, because I've got videos on all aspects of Black history. Right now, put a subscribe right now and press that like button. Come on, press that subscription button, press that like button, and then also, in a sense, press the bell so that you're able to know when I'm about to go on, that you're able, in a sense, to know that, hey, Dr. Winters is on. You can order my books at Amazon.com. So any of my books that you want to buy, go to Amazon.com. Let the researcher do the research. Yes. Let the researcher do the research. How you doing, Doravelle? How you doing, Craig? Craig Hawkins. You got to let the researcher do the research.
Greetings family, Sister Shanice here, and I'm absolutely delighted to be able to bring you a new training program that starts on Monday the 29th of April 2024. It's going to be running for 6 strongs or 6 weeks, and we're going to be focusing on when Britain was black. Yes, indeed. Did you know that there was a time when in Britain we were worshipping a black Jesus on the cross? No, it's not just Russia. Did you know that there was a time in Britain where the mother and child was actually portrayed as black? Did you know that there was a time in Britain when the majority of people in Parliament were black? Did you know that there was a time in Britain when the monument builders were black? Did you know there was a time in Britain when the aristocracy was black, the kings, the queens, and royalty was black? Family, there has been so much history that has been hidden from us as a people, and we're going to be resurrecting this history on our 6 weeks training program. So make sure you join me, family, if you want to appreciate love the extent to which we as Africans have a greater claim to Britain than is currently being portrayed. If you are a Black history enthusiast, if you want to learn about where to go to do the research and find out more about Black Britain, if you are maybe training others in Black history, developing curriculum materials, maybe teaching in the field of history, and want to know more about Africans in Britain, then this is definitely the course for you. As I said, it's starting on Monday the 29th of April. Installment options are available. We're looking forward to you joining us on that day. I have leading researcher, anthropologist, archaeologist, linguist, man himself, Dr. Clyde Winters. So join us, family. We look forward to you being there. Okay, family, so sign up for this new, innovative, inspirational, groundbreaking course that's going to unravel, resurrect some buried treasures of African history. Don't delay. Go to sistershanice.gumroad.com. That's sistershanice.gumroad.com. Bye for now.
Let the researcher do the research. Let the researcher do the research. Come on now. You know, what we're going to talk about, it comes from much of my research. For example, Ancient Black Civilization of America by this book, Before Egypt, the Modern Federation, Africa's First Civilization. And then my Black History Gym Essays, Volume 1 and 2, have some of the latest research articles that relate to some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. And of course, my book, The World History of the Black Race. In this book, you can find out about every Black race. Get these books and you can find out how and why and when, the various Black and African people moved to these various continents. Yes, we were on every continent, but how did we get there? See, Runoko Rashidi, he used to do a lot of good photo essays. He's a very good photojournalist, and he presented a lot of pictures about Black people being all over the world. But the thing is, this is that in my books, I take this one step further, whereas he may have shown you the pictures, I show you the pictures, and I also tell you how we got there. I also tell you how that civilization was. Buy my books. Be supportive. Support the brother. Origin and Spread of the Black Race. Black people inhabited every continent first. What is FBA? I'm an FBA, so I'll tell you. FBA is not a group. FBA is not an organization. FBA is a lineage. A lineage is lineal descent from an ancestor, ancestry or pedigree. As a result, we are descendants of the African and Aboriginal Blacks who built the United States. Yes. FBA, Foundational Black Americans. B1 is acknowledging your Black African ancestry and mod, not heritage. We must be race men and women proud of our culture and African Black ancestry. You have to be B1. But recently, because of Dorville, he's in the chat. I know he's in the chat. Because of Dorville, he made me have to go back. I'm not really as a linguist, I study languages, but I'm not so much an etymologist who studies words. But Dorville forced me to go back and look at what was the original meaning of black to the Greco-Romans? What was the original meaning of black in Old English? Yes, not modern English, but Old English. And what I found is that when you look at these texts, you find out that black equals brilliant. Yes, black equals brilliant. Therefore, when you say B1, you're not just saying black first, you're saying brilliant first. That when you look at these original meanings of the word black, you see why black people call themselves. They're brilliant, we're shining. See? But because of the fact that we've been indoctrinated by these Europeans to see black as a crayon color, we don't really understand the true meanings of black. See? That's why they always refer to us as Negro. So when they refer to us as Negro, then therefore, in a sense, they gave the Spanish translation of Negro or noir in French, which is black. But black means more. Yes, black means more than just a color of a crayon. Black means shining, brilliant. So when you're B1, you're black first. When you're B1, you're brilliant first. We have been taught a history of lies, a history where we are the victims of white racism. These lies teach us that we are people too weak to defend ourselves because of the natural superiority of the European race over the primitive African, whose emotionalism makes it impossible for them to do anything without the guidance and direction of the Europeans. That's what they teach us, but history is the greatest lies. We don't need Europeans to guide us. We're not by ourselves. We're not alone. No, we're not alone. We're more than that. As a rule, under white supremacy, history is whatever white people say it is. Even though archaeologists have found ancient artifacts of blacks, the white supremacists demand that you ignore what you can see with your own eyes, replace it with images they make up. You see? Here we see a Mayan, and we see an Olmec. And yet, in a sense, you can naturally see that Mayan may relate to the Red Indians, but that Olmec, he's not related to the Red Indians. He's a Negro. He's a black person. He's you. He's me. He's us. Black is the name for melanated people. Today, many blacks are ashamed of their dark hue and refuse to identify themselves as blacks. They even go so far as to claim that no African or Negro group in history ever identified themselves as a black population. This causes us to ask the question, did ancient civilizations identify their populations as black? Melanated people or Negro people have long recognized there was no single hue ascribed to black people. Ancient Saharan art depicts ancient Africans as blacks, browns, reds, and yellows. The Akkadians and the Sumerians both refer to themselves as Sagiga, the blackheads. The ancient Chinese, they called themselves Li Min, black people. You can read more about this in my book, The Ancient Blacks of China. Li Min means what? Black people. The Olmec called themselves She. And that word means what? Black people. The Ali Tiravitar, the old Dravidians, are black as their African brothers with a difference in hair texture. In ancient Tamil poems, they are described as Mame, blacks. Yes. Maliki Membara called themselves C, black people. As you can see, black people did call themselves black. See? The Aztecs, they called themselves Masica. And what does Masica mean? It means lords of the black land. You see? That's what the Aztecs called themselves. And the Olmecs called themselves the She, black people. Yes. The people of ancient Kemet, or Egypt, they call themselves Kametru, the black people. Stop it. Stop believing in the sense that black people never call themselves black. The hieroglyphic sequence for Kemet, Egypt, with the sign depicting the crocodile scales on charcoal on the left side. This is the sign for the Kametru or Kemet. When we read, in a sense, in the General History of Africa, and you can find this, this is online, this particular volume. So you can check this out later if you want to do it. When you go and check this out, you find out is that, it's written, this is an article written by Sheikh Anta Diop on the origins of ancient of Egyptians. He wrote, of necessity, the earliest men were ethnically homogeneous and Negroid. Glogger's law, which would appear to be applicable to human beings, lays it down that warm-blooded animals evolving in a warm, humid climate will secrete a black pigment, eumelanin. Hence, if mankind originated in the tropics, where they say they did, around the latitudes of the Great Lakes, he was bound to have been pigmented with a deep, dark skin. Yes, yes, yes. The Egyptians, they recognized in a sense that they were black, you see. The Egyptians, they called their country Kemet. And they called, in a sense, they called themselves the Kametru. What makes it even more interesting is that the Egyptians referred to all their gods as being black. The Egyptians had only one term to designate themselves, Kemet, Kametru. The Negroes literally are the blacks. This is the strongest term existing in the Pharaonic language to indicate blackness. It is accordingly written with a hieroglyph representing the length of wood charred at the end, and not crocodile scales. This word is the etymological origin of the well-known root, Kemet, which has proliferated in modern anthropological literature. They prefer the expression Ramikemet, the men of the country, the black men, or the men of the black country. Yes, 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 yes. Stop it. Stop it. You see, we find in a sense that when you look at these divine epithets, when they talk about, the Kametru, the great Negro, Kametru, that was Osiris. Kemet, the black, the name of the god. Kemet, Kemetwa, the land of the goddess. Yes, 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 black, 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 black. In Egyptian words, I normally follow, I'm reading this. And he wrote, page 42, in Egyptian words are normally followed by a determinative, which indicates their exact sense. And for this particular expression, Egyptologists suggest that Kemet, black, and the color qualifies the determinative in which follows it, and which signifies country. Accordingly, they claim that the translation should be black earth, from the color of the loam or the black country, and not the country of the black men, as we should be inclined to render in today with black Africa and white Africa in mind. Perhaps so, but if we apply the rule rigorously, we know in a sense that they will call themselves the Kametru, the black people. Yes, yes. The ancient Egyptians, they were black and they were proud. And yet you find so many people trying to run away from the word black. Because whenever they hear the word black, they think of negativity. They think of this crayon that the European has fixated in their mind. You see, they've been taught, and they really believe the lies that these Europeans have taught them. You see. In Egyptian words are normally followed by a determinative, and so then therefore, in a sense, Kemet, we are forced to concede that here the adjective black qualifies the determinative, which signifies the whole people of Egypt, shown by the two symbols for man and woman, and the three strokes below them, which indicate the plural. Thus, if it is possible to voice a doubt as regards the expression Kemet, it is not possible to do so. In the case of the two adjectives nationality, Kemet, Kametru, unless one is picking one's arguments completely. Yes, 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 yes. The Egyptians referred to themselves as Kametru. coming true. The black people. The historical evidence makes it clear that there's nothing wrong in using the term black to describe dark melanated people. The melanated people of ancient Asia, Africa, and Europe have noted the difference between themselves and light-skinned Asian, Mongoloids, and contemporary Europeans. Many black ethnic groups call themselves black. The Assyrians frequently referred to the Meluhites as Salmuti black. You can see that map on the right-hand side. And in Sumerian writings, they talk about, you can see where Sumer was. Dilmun was the Indus Valley, ancient Egypt, and Meluha was the northeast coast. And so the Assyrians, they called them Meluhites, the people in a sense who live in modern Ethiopia today. They called them in a sense the Salmuti, the black people. The Assyrians called themselves Salmat Akkadi, Salmat Akkadi, the black people. This illustrates that both the Meluhites and the Assyrians were blacks. Yes, 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 yes. Here you can see a picture of an Assyrian, Salmat Akkadi. The only difference between him and the Salmuti is that he wears a beard and the other brothers don't. Black is a name for melanated people. Yes, yes. The blacks who ruled the world. There are numerous African exits out of Africa, but everybody thinks it was a big Negro. No, it wasn't a big Negro. It appears in a sense that various groups were created over time by God. The earliest types of black humans were the Australians. After the Australians, we see the Khoisan. After the Khoisan, we see the Twa, the Anu, the people we call pygmies today. And then we see the contemporary taller black people, and I call them the Proto-Saharans. When most of the time, in a sense, it appears that there were geomagnetic reversals, and it led to the development of these Africoid people. We notice that by at least 130,000 BC, we see the Australian people. Then around 42,000 BC, 45,000 BC, we see in the archaeological record. Again, I use the archaeological records to determine the chronology of these various African groups. We find in the archaeological record that around 42,000 BC, we begin to see the people who we call Khoisan today. By 24,000 BC, we begin to see in the archaeological record, we begin to see in a sense the Anu people or the Twa people. Then sometime after 5,000, 6,000 BC, we begin to see the Proto-Saharan people, the contemporary black people, tall black people like us. The Khoisan were the original people in a sense. Here we can see on the left-hand side, we can see some Australians down at the bottom. You can see their curly hair. You can see in a sense that they had straight hair. And also look across, you can see they had those very broad bridges over their eyes, you see. And see, it was these people in a sense. These were the original people who left Africa. Yes, the first people to leave Africa were the Australians. And if you notice, when we look across that bridge over their eyes, you see that the bridge is much more prominent. And you see that the Australian people, they still continue to have the archaic look. Yes, the archaic look of the earliest, hominids that man evolved in. They call us, because of the fact that the area over the eyes, because of the fact in the sense that it's not as prominent, they call us anatomically modern humans. You see. Okay, then if you look at this Khoisan, it's a Khoisan on the far right-hand side. When you look at the bridge over his eyes, you can see that it's not as prominent. You see, and so then that's how they began to classify anatomically modern humans and archaic humans. They believe that archaic humans had that broad brow. Contemporary humans, in a sense, as in the case of this Khoisan person, they have a different brow. According to Timmerman, Anatomically modern humans probably made at least 4 migrations out of Africa. 106 or 130,000 to 94,000 years ago, 89,000 to 73,000 years ago, 59,000 to 47,000 years ago, and 45,000 to 29,000 years ago. He wrote that, and I quote, such shifts then open up green corridors between Africa and the Eastern Mediterranean, and between Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, thus enabling Homo sapiens to leave northeastern Africa and embark on their grand journey into Asia, Europe, Australia, and eventually to the Americas. These dates are interesting because they correspond to the archaeological evidence for anatomically modern humans in Brazil, Crete, and China, 130 to 100,000 years ago. The rise of the Aurignacian culture from Africa to Iberia and thence Eastern Europe around 44,000 years ago, and the spread of the Solutrean culture from Africa to Iberia and North America 21,000 to 17,000 years ago are also indications of various populations that originated in Africa, but later migrated to other parts of the world. The Australians, they spread out of Africa 130,000 years ago. Okay, these are some of the prehistoric type people. If you look on the right-hand side, we can see Rhodesian man. He had a different name. He had a different name in Europe, but this is Rhodesian man. Again, look at that bridge. Look at that broad bridge over the eyes. For Rhodesian man, he's the person reconstruction to the far left. Then in the middle, we see Neanderthal man. When you look at Neanderthal man, you can still see, look at there, we see that prominent bridge, that prominent brow over the eyes. Again, in a sense, that shows his archaic nature. But then we finally come to the far right. Then we begin to look at the Australians. And when we look at the Australians, they still have a fairly prominent bridge over their eyes. But if you notice, the brow, in a sense, is not as prominent as in the case of the Neanderthal man and Rhodesian man. It's very important to understand that all of these people were, in a sense, Black people. You know, today the European, he tries to teach you this bullish that the Neanderthal was not a Homo sapien, that Neanderthal. No. They called Neanderthal a beast, and they were against Neanderthal because of the fact that when they discovered his bones, they noticed that he was a Negro. And they, in a sense, did not want people, in a sense, to believe that they originated from Negroes. That's why they were a beast. But if you notice over the past 10 to 5 years, they've been trying, in a sense, to present to the world that Neanderthals were light-skinned. But we know there were no light-skinned people 400,000 years ago. In fact, most legitimate geneticists believe that the first people to have a light complexion only occurred around 10,000 BC. But again, let's look at these people. You see Rhodesian man on the far left. Then you see, in a sense, Neanderthal man. Look at how Rhodesian man, look at that bridge, that brow across above the eyes. See how it is very prominent in Rhodesian man. We see that in Neanderthal, it's kind of shrunk a little bit. It's not as prominent. But we see that in the Australian, that we begin to see, in a sense, the less prominent brow, the less prominent bridge over the eyes. And so this is why, in a sense, we consider Australians to be anatomically modern humans. You know, Africa was Africa was much different than back in the day than it is today. As you can see, Africa, in a sense, was full of nothing but gigantic lakes. You know, people forget, when you look at a map, they make Africa look very small, but you can probably put about, I think, maybe 4 to 6 continents of North America in Africa. Africa is just that gigantic, you see. And if you notice, there was so many lakes in Africa. That's one of the reasons that when we look at Saharan art, we find all of these engravings of boats in the stone, and that's because of the fact that Black people, because it was more water, it was more wetter back in the olden days, then African people were always building boats, and they were always selling from town to town and they used boats as their major means of communication. You see, and that's one of the reasons why we find so many African boats in the rock art. Here's some right here you can look at. And see, now you can see Mega Chad. Here's Lake Mega Chad, Lake Mega Congo, Lake Mega Chad. Now listen to this. Lake Mega Chad was 139,000 square miles. What? What are you talking about? Yes. Lake Mega Chad was 139,000 square miles. These lakes were gigantic. Gigantic. And that's why when you see these black people who were selling from Africa to other parts of the world, they didn't find the oceans, the Indian, the Atlantic, the Pacific Ocean. They didn't find them as really, in a sense, a threat, because they were already living on the African continent, where you had Lake Mega Chad, Lake Mega Congo. So they were used to, in a sense, traveling. Look how, in a sense, it's almost, you can see rivers, in a sense, that connected Lake Chad, Lake Mega Congo. That's why you could sell a boat. You could sell a boat back in ancient times from South Africa all the way into the Sahara, because of these gigantic lakes. Just imagine that. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine these lakes being that immense, these lakes being that gigantic? Naturally, black people wouldn't have been afraid of the oceans. They wouldn't have been afraid of the seas. And they would have been experts at navigating on these oceans, navigating these seas. And they used, in a sense, an astro navigational techniques to be able to move from place to place. And they used these navigational tools to be able, in a sense, to get in their boats and sail to Ireland and Britain, or sail to North America, South America, or sail all the way to China. See, think about this. Now let's go back. What do we find? We find, in a sense, that they said that Lake Mega Chad was 139,000 miles. 139,000 miles. And yet, look, the distance from West Africa to Brazil is only 1,700 miles. Try to digest that. Try to digest that those lakes, those mega lakes, were, in a sense, those mega lakes that existed in Africa were larger. The selling from Brazil to West Africa, and we find in many of the ancient boats, they had oars. So a lot of times they had oars, so people could sail. They could go in any direction because they had oars. Some of them had sails too. But can you just look at that? They're selling on Lake Mega Chad was 139,000 miles, and only 1,700 miles between Brazil and West Africa. That's nothing. So these people, in a sense, these ancient black people, they sailed across these lakes. They made these boats. They made these rafts. They had sails on their boats. They had oars to move. They showed a boat. They showed a boat that they found in Ireland that was 20 feet long, and the boat was 20 feet long. It was found in Ireland, and this boat shows where they had oars. And even when we look at the art, the rock art, we can find, in a sense, that they had these boats with oars. See? Look at this bottom picture over here. You can see right there. See those people? See those oars that they had? Yes. So they could go in any direction they want to. They didn't have to just wait for wind to hit the sails. They could just row their way there. Again, here we can see Rhodesia, man. Again, we can see that broad bridge. And we see the Australians, they have their bridge is not so large, but you can still see it's pretty prominent. But you can see why they consider the Australians and the rest of us anatomically modern humans, as opposed to the archaic Homo sapiens who had, in a sense, these broad bridges over their eyes. Here's again some Australians. Here we can see this is a boat that they found in Australia. You can see the people. You can look at how their arms are. That this boat probably had oars. Because it looks as though they're selling, pulling the oars so that they can move the boat. In summary, the new evidence of anatomically modern humans in Arabia, on Crete, and now in Brazil around 100,000 years ago, 130,000 years ago, suggests that anatomically modern humans left Africa before 60,000 years ago. They always teach you that Africans didn't leave Africa until 60,000 years ago. This evidence proves that they had already migrated out of Africa as early as 130,000 years ago. The archaeological evidence from the Americas and Eurasia make it clear that people left Africa 100,000 years ago to settle other parts of the world. This indicates that although there is firm archaeological evidence man began to settle Western Eurasia and other parts of the world 60,000 years ago, during the interglacial period between 130 and 100,000 years ago, blacks were probably already, in a sense, making an out of Africa exit. OOA means out of Africa. The next people, in a sense, to migrate out of Africa who appeared on the scene from the archaeological record were the Khoisan people. The Khoisan people, in a sense, are known, they early settled Europe, and they're known as the Cro-Magnon man. Again, here you can see the skull of this ancient Khoisan who ruled in Europe. Again, in a sense, look at that bridge over the eyes. You see that? That bridge over the eyes, that's, in a sense, an indication of the less archaic nature. Okay, right here, I don't know if you can see this on the screen. When you look at this this nose area, you can begin to see it's up in here. This is where forensic archaeologists can tell if you're Negro, Asian, or, in a sense, African. That's how they can tell that this was an African or Black person, by looking at this nasal area, that nose area in the center of the skull. But again, in a sense, look at that bridge over the eye sockets. See how it's not as prominent. And then, in a sense, we can see this reconstruction of in a sense, Cro-Magnon man, on the right hand side. They teach you. I know when Diop was writing, they back then they were teaching that Cro-Magnon man was the earliest European, you see. But now we can see in this reconstruction that he was not a Caucasian, that he was a Black person. Some of the earliest art from ancient Europe, the Grimaldi art, is representative of the Khoisan. Here you can see a Khoisan woman on the right hand side, and you can see one of the Grimaldi figures. These are some of the they believe that these were fertility dolls. They don't know if they carried them in their houses but they believe, in a sense, that these dolls, in a sense, were meant to support this whole idea of women having children, and that it was a very interesting culture. And this culture, in a sense, these people who the Khoisan began to migrate out of Africa into Europe around 46,000 years ago. Yes, they began to settle in Spain around 46,000 years ago. Here you can see some of the other Khoisan figures from ancient Europe. You can look at here. You can see on the right and the left. You can see, in a sense, the hair, the braided hair. See, that shows, in a sense, that African or Black women wearing braids is so old that it's very, very, very old. And then we see another picture of another ancient European, and these people were probably representing the Khoisan. There have been numerous Negroid skeletons found in Europe. Marceline Boulay and Henry Valos in Fossil Man providing an entire chapter on the Africans, Negroes of Europe. Anti-Diop also discussed the Negroes of Europe and civilization or barbarism, pages 25 to 68. In addition, W. Du Bois discussed these blacks in the world and Africa, pages 86 to 89. Du Bois noted that there was once an uninterrupted belt of Negro culture from Central Europe to South Africa. Boulay and Wallace noted that, and I quote, to sum up, in the most ancient skeleton from the Grotto des Enfants, we have a human type which is readily comparable to modern types, especially in the Negritic or Negroid type. They continue two Neolithic individuals on Champlain-Diz in Switzerland are Negroid, not only as regards the skulls, but also in the proportion of their limbs. Several Ligurian and Lombard tombs of the Middle Age have also yielded evidence of a Negroid element. Since the publications of Vigneault's Memoir, discoveries of other Negroid skeletons in Neolithic levels in Illyria and the Balkans have been announced. The prehistoric statues dating from the Copper Age, from Sultan Selo in Bulgaria, are also thought to portray Negroids. Yes. Black people here, black people there, black people everywhere. In 1928, René Belly found in one of the caverns of Moniette near Dinant in Belgium a human skeleton whose age it is difficult to be certain, but seems likely prehistoric. It is remarkable for its Negroid characters, which give it a resemblance to the skeletons from both Grimaldi and Ancelon. Boulay and Wallace noted that, and I quote, we know now that the ethnography of South African tribes presents many striking similarities with the ethnography of our populations of the reindeer age. They're talking about the Khoisan. Not to speak of their stone implements, which, as we shall see later, exhibit great similarities. Paringue has told us that in certain burials on the South African coast associated with the Aurignacian or Solutrean type industries, they add that in relation to Bushman art, this almost uninterrupted series leads us to regard the African continent as a centre of important migrations, which at certain times may have played a great part in the stocking of Southern Europe. Finally, we must not forget that the Grimaldi Negroid skeletons show many points of resemblance with the Bushman skeletons. They bear no less a resemblance to the fossil man discovered at Anslar in mid-Sahara, whose characters lead us to class him with the Hottentot Bushman group. Yes. So as you can see, they not only in a sense show the spread of these Homo sapiens or modern humans, anatomically modern humans from South Africa. We see that they found skeletons of this group in South Africa. They later found skeletons of this group in North Africa. And then finally, in a sense, they found skeletons of this group in Iberia, or what we call Spain. This shows, in a sense, that as early as 46,000 BC, we begin to see the various peoples, the various Khoisan people began to migrate out of Africa into Europe. Okay, the next people to leave, the next group of blacks to leave, in a sense, Africa were the Anu, or the Pygmy people. Yes, the Anu or the Pygmies. I know that many people feel that the word Pygmies is in a sense derogatory, but because of the fact that if you try to look up this group, then they may not have them listed as Anu or Twa. It's good you would have to look and discover them in much of the early literature. They would have been described as Pygmies. That's the only reason that I'm using this term. The Anu were the founders of Egypt. We find this is an inscription that shows, in a sense, that the builders of the temples, the first worshipers of the god Set, were in a sense the Anu. See, and so this is the evidence that we know that the Anu founded ancient Egypt. We also know that the Anu, from this Sumerian inscription, we know that the Anu also founded the Sumerian civilization. Yes. When it's I know it's hard for you to believe. it's hard for you to associate these people who now live in the forest regions of Central Africa. These people, in the sense that when Europeans expanded around the world, they were found in the jungles throughout, in a sense, South America and Asia. It's hard to believe that these people, in a sense, founded the Egyptian civilization, founded the Sumerian civilization. But yes, these were the supermen of old, the Anu. You see? Here we can see the Anu as a Sumerian bull god. Yes. These people created a great civilization. It was the Anu who built the pyramids. It was the Anu who built the earliest temples of Sumer. Think about that architectural knowledge. Think about the engineering skill that these people had, in a sense. Think about the artistic, expertise that they had to make these beautiful artifacts. You see? Here we can see the god Bes. And the god Bes is often depicted as a dwarf or a pygmy type person, you see? But again, in summary, the Anu ruled the world up to the Great Flood. They founded civilization in ancient Egypt and Sumer. They formerly lived on every continent. The Great Flood left them isolated in hills, islands, and mountains around the world. Yes. That's one of the reasons why when the Europeans began to go into China, and when they went into to South America and other places, they were always struck by the fact that they always found these negritos. Negrito, what that meant, in a sense, is just some little blacks. Negritos were the little blacks. And these were the Anu. And just think about, they had a civilization worldwide. I know that I always bring up to you that I've been trying, in a sense, to do research. I've been trying to really elaborate the entire history of the Anu people, but it's kind of hard. And the reason that it's hard is that as many of the great civilizations that the Anu built, they were submerged under the water after the Great Flood of 4000 BC. The only reason we know about Egypt and Sumer is because these civilizations were on dry land, and the area has remained fairly stable up to this point in time. So we're able to see the creativity, able to see the great technological, creations of these people. Because it would have been the Anu who built the Sphinx. It would have been the Anu who built the first pyramids in Europe and probably the rest of the world too. The Ma Confederation, the contemporary Black people, the tall people like us, they belong to the Ma Confederation. I call them the Proto-Saharans. The Proto-Saharans claim descent from Ma, or Fish Confederation. The Ma Confederation includes the Egyptians, Elamites, Dravidians, Manding, and Sumerians. In honor of the great ancestor Ma, they worship the god called Amun, or Amma. In honor of this great ancestor, the descendants of the Proto-Saharans use the term Ma to denote greatness or highness, e.g. Manding, Maga, and Dravidian, Ma. Other Proto-Saharan tribes claim direct descent from the great Ma, founder of the Fish Confederation. For example, the Manding call themselves Mayende, children of Ma, while the Sumerians call themselves Magari, exalted gods' children. Yes. The Proto-Saharans, in honor of the great Ma, use the term Ma, as I said earlier. The Mao of the Dravidians is just another form of the Mao, and the fish is the fish. He was the prototype of the fish god among the Pandian Tamils, Amma, Uma, Aman, and etc. seems to either refer to Mao's consort. Here's Ma. Look here. Here you can see the god. Look at these pictures. On the left-hand side, you can see the god Aman. Whoa. But then they've got these figures that they found in the Saharan desert. And these figures that they found in the Saharan deserts, they say that these figures are yardanes, and they feel that the Saharan winds, in a sense, carved these rocks, or that because of the wind over thousands of years, these yardanes were made in this form. But look at that. Do you notice that these so-called yardanes, They look like the god Iman. Yes, yes. They look like a ram. And so, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Sometimes I wish that I had the money and the expertise to maybe go over and excavate up under some of these yardanes and see if they're not just rock structures, but maybe they're pyramids, or maybe they were a pyramidal structure, or they were a structure that these ancient Anu people built. You see, to celebrate their worship of Amma, Amun, Amun, Amun. The Proto-Saharans claim descent from the Ma, or Fish Confederation. Yes, 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 yes. This is who they are. This is why they call themselves Mayende, children of Ma. It's why they call themselves Magari, exalted God's children, because they feel, in a sense, that they're descendants from the great fish. And it was these black people who felt they were descendants from the great fish that built those beautiful monuments, that built those beautiful pillars and towers that we find that are associated with ancient Egypt, that are associated, in a sense, with the Sumerian civilization. You see. The common god called Ma, the man-fish of Eridu, Mesopotamia, and Syria, and its iphalic forms, the prototype of Amun in Egypt, and the goddess Minaski of Madura in South India, the goddesses of fish eyes on the Malabar, fish bearer of Mana, and the sacred fishes of the Mapila of the west coast of the Deccan in India. In the languages of the Manding, Ma is greatness. And this is why they had it. Yes, yes. They're talking about these great people. Amma, the fish god. He, in a sense, he encompassed it not only in a sense, the darkness, the blackness, the shining. He also, in a sense, represented the ability to be great engineers, the ability, in a sense, to be like a fish, to be able to conquer the water. And not only conquer the water, but after conquering the water, to build these beautiful monuments in Egypt, these beautiful monuments in Samaria. They go back to the culture, goes back to these Proto-Saharans. You see, yes, we had to envision these gods. We had to envision, in a sense, the Amma, Think about this. The Ma element was also used in the names of their rulers. Remember, the unifier of Egypt was called Menes. The Dravidians, they called their rulers what? The Manan. Yes, Menes of Egypt, Manan of the Dravidians. And then we have the Mandingos. And the Mandingos, they call their kings what? Mansa, as in Mansa Musa or Mansa Abu Bakari. But do you see how the Proto-Saharans, they continued, in a sense, to use the word Ma to denote greatness. In Sumerian, we have Maga. In Manding, we have Mag, and in Sumerian and Dravidian, we have Ma. But all of these go back to who? They go back to the great fish god. They go back to the man fish. They go back to the man, the engineer, who could build these monuments, who could recover, in a sense, the land, and control the waters, control the floods. This is what made those great leaders of ancient Egypt and Sumer so important, because they were like fish in the sense that they could control the elements. They could control, in a sense, where the water would stand and where the dry land would be. These were the Proto-Saharans. These were our ancestors, the contemporary black people who are neither too small or too tall. But most of us are pretty tall. We're over 5, usually over about 5'5", 5'6", something like that. If you want to learn more about the Ma and the Cushites, check out this book, Before Egypt, the Ma Confederation, Africa's First Civilization. You can also find out more about the Ma in my book, Egyptian Language, The Mountains of the Moon, Niger-Congo Speakers, and the Origin of Egypt. And naturally, if you want to find out about the Cushites, the only book in existence, on the Cushites is my book, The Cushites, Who, What, When, Where, by Dr. Clyde Winters. You can order those books at Amazon, The goddess Ammon is the most ancient among the Proto-Saharans. This goddess has many names, including Athene, Neith, the daughter of Poseidon, god of the sea. Again, reference to the great fish man, right? Poseidon. And Demeter, the mare-headed patroness. The mother goddess Ammon of Libya had her cult center at the oasis of Siwa in ancient Egypt. Ammon was depicted as a ram with spears. The god Ammon was taken to Egypt during the New Kingdom. You know, the Ma people had writings. I discussed this ancient writing in my book called The Dawn of Writing, Decipherment of the Thinite Dispilio Tablet and Gobekli Tepe's Pillars. Yeah, I know you've heard of Gobekli Tepe. They consider Gobekli Tepe to be the oldest Neolithic site. Well, the Anu built that. See, but it was later taken over by the various, in a sense, Proto-Saharan people. Right here, look at this comparison of writing systems. Here we have, let's go from left to right. We have the megalithic writings on the megalithic party of South India. We have the Uruk writing. We have Proto-Elamite writing. Next, we have the Indus Valley writing. We have writing from Mertatech. We have linear A writing from Crete. And then we have the Manding writing. Look at how so many of these letters are the same, you see. Because of the fact that many of these letters are the same, and through comparative linguistics, I was able to prove that there was a relationship between Sumerian, Elamite, the Manding languages, and the Dravidian languages. I was able, in a sense, to decipher these ancient writings because in each one of these lands, they used these signs, but the signs, in a sense, they had the same orthography, they had the same phonemic sound, but in a sense, you had to read these letters when they were put together into words. You had to read them in the language associated with the people who use these various forms of writing. But as you can see, the people of the Ma Confederation had their own writing system. You can order my book, The Dawn of Writing, Decipherment of the Thinite Dispilio Tablet, and Gobekli Tepe Pillars. Thinite is the name of the earliest writing used in ancient Egypt. You know, you can order this book at Amazon.com. The Proto-Saharans spoke similar languages. They found the civilizations in Sumer, Elam, the Indus Valley, Libyco-Berber, and the Minoan civilization. Yes. It was these people who built civilization all the way from Saharan Africa all the way to Mesopotamia. Thousands of miles, you see. But what they did is that many of these civilizations, like ancient Egypt and Sumer, were began by the Anu. But after the Great Flood, this destabilized many of these areas, and they began, in a sense, to end many of their trade contacts. And what the Proto-Saharans did is that after the flood, the Proto-Saharans, in a sense, began to revise the trade networks that had existed during Anu times. And they began, in a sense, to move into these areas. And they began, in a sense, to reestablish the trades in metals, the trades, in a sense, in fine stones and things like that, and began, in a sense, a reemergence of civilization after the Great Flood. Here you can see some of the ancient African watercourses where people were able to communicate again. You know, when you look at these watercourses, you can see how they were connected. And these watercourses are in addition to, I already showed you the Lake Mega Chad, Lake Mega Congo. So when you look at these waterways, you can see how the major mode of communication for the Proto-Saharan people and African people in general was boats. As a result of numerous lakes, streams, and rivers in Middle Africa, the Proto-Saharans had a highly developed boat technology. Again, look here. See, look at these boats. These boats have been found in the Sahara. See? These boats go back, 10, 15, 20,000 years ago, based upon the an examination of the rock inscriptions and the patina that's on these rocks. And look at them. Most of these boats were propelled by oars. Look at those oars. Look at that boat on the top of the right hand side. You can see the oars sticking in the water. Then you can see other boats down in the picture up under it on the right hand side. You see oars, so that meant that they could go in any direction. They didn't have to wait for the wind to propel them. They could just, and just think about that. Lake Mega Chad was 139,000 square miles. But the distance between Brazil and West Africa was only 1,700 miles. What was 1,700 miles for these people to be able to navigate and to cross when they were going across a lake that was 139,000 square miles? Just think about that. Think about that, and think about the ingenuity and the navigation skills of these Black people who live in Africa. Again, in a sense, it shows you how the Proto-Saharans, when they left Africa and to settle in Sumer and other parts of the world, China, and even in the Americas, they took with them their red and black pottery and their boat technology. And you can see how they began, in a sense, to migrate into Nubia, Punt, Egypt, Mesopotamia, all those places. And they took their civilization with them. The modern representatives of the Proto-Saharans include the Dravidian, the Dogon, and Mandi-speaking peoples of India and West Africa, respectively. Also, you got to remember this is that African people still speak. Yes. A lot of you guys, you get upset, and I think he was a troll. And he's talking about, stop talking about the Dravidians. I have to talk about the Dravidians because when you look at the languages, Tamil, Telugu, etc., you find that the Dravidian languages belong to the Niger-Congo family of languages. And do you know what else today, family? Do you know what else is interesting? Is that Tamil, which is the lingua franca and the literary language of South India. Yes, Tamil is still spoken in Cameroon. Yes. Africans continue to speak Tamil in Cameroon today. That's just to show the relationship between African and Dravidian people. Yeah, a lot of people, they get it twisted. They say, look at Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris she's a Tamil. It's a relationship between Tamil and black people. But you have to understand that Kamala Harris, her family background is Brahmin. That means, in the sense that she belongs to a Brahmin family. Her ancestors mainly came from North India, the Indo-Aryan people. They were the ones who mainly became the Brahmin after they conquered many of the local Dravidian people. You see, there's epigraphic evidence that indicates that Narmer was probably a Cushite. Narmer ruled an area extending from the Nile Valley into Levant. Yes. It was Narmer or Menes. It was Narmer who conquered not only Egypt, but he also conquered the Levant all the way to Sumer. He conquered all of the Anu civilizations and tribes. Yes. The Cushites were called Hast in African Levant. Cushites had early settled in the Levant since Narmer times. We find Narmer's name on his jars and shureks from excavations in Israel and Palestine. For example, at Tel Irani, Arad, Inbisur, Halif Terence, Nahal, Talah, and see they have a bula dating to this period that makes it clear that this part of the Negev was called Hast. Look at this bula. Here's a bula from Nahil Taha. It says Hast. You see, that's what the Allure Egyptians, Hawks, Hyksos. So the Hyksos, when they talk about the Hyksos, were Jews or they were Hebrew people. No, the Hyksos, they were Cushites. That was the original name of the Cushites, was Hyksos. We can see it on this bulla. We got the bulla here. Later, in a sense, during the New Kingdom, they began to call the people, in a sense, that lived in upper Kush and lower Kush. They called them the Kush. But the original name for the Kushites was Host. And they called them the rulers of Hekahost. That's where we get the term Hyksos. The Hyksos was just the name of the Cushites that lived in Lower Egypt. Words create spells. The Greco-Romans called the Cushites Ethiopians. Ethiopia means black. But Ethiopians didn't just mean black. Ethiopians also means brilliant. That meant, in a sense, they saw black people not only, in a sense, having a black complexion, but also having a brilliant intellect. See? It's time that we understand that black had a different meaning than the word black today, which many people associate basically with a crayon. The original Greco-Roman name for the blacks or the Cushites was, in a sense, Ethiop. And Ethiop meant black and brilliant in complexion and intellect. The presence of this bulla indicates that this area was called Hust or Kush. Since Nama was from Lower Egypt, explains why they called themselves Hust. The modern interpretation of Gardner's Egyptian sign N25 as Hush is wrong. There's no evidence that T should be added to host. As a result, I believe the N25 originally was host, not Hust. See, and this is how we see, this is the document that relates, in a sense, to Narmer as he conquered, in a sense, Egypt. The Kushites built the River Valley civilization. Yes, the Hus or Kush. Many of the founders of these civilizations belonged to the Ma Confederation. Sumer, we know that Sumer was the name of the civilization of Mesopotamia. In Sumerian records, this is in Sumerian records, the Indus Valley was called Dilmun. In Sumerian records, in this valley was called Dilmun. In Sumerian records, Kemet, or ancient Egypt, was called Magan. And the northeastern part of Africa was called Maluha or Punt. So in Sumerian literature, we have Magan, that's Egypt, Maluha, that's the northeast African coast, and Delmun, that's the Indus Valley. All of these people belong to the Ma Confederation. And I was able, in a sense, to show this connection by using what's called comparative linguistics. The Kushites of the River Valley civilizations, ancient Kemet, Sumer, the Indus Valley, and Maluha. The reason they call them River Valley civilizations is that they're all built in areas, in a sense, where there was large rivers that they could use for communication. The Kushites of the River Valley civilization cultivated millet and built many ancient monuments across the Green Sahara, all the way to ancient China. Sumer is one of the earliest urban civilizations in ancient Mesopotamia, located in the southern part of modern-day Iraq. It emerged around 4000 BCE and is known for its advanced cities, writing systems, cuneiform, and complex society. Sumer was a major center of trade and cultural exchange in the region. Okay, but you got to remember, in a sense, that when we're talking about 4000 BCE, we're talking about the expansion of the Proto-Saharans out of Africa into Mesopotamia. The Anu had already built ancient Sumer thousands of years earlier, but we basically, in a sense, we're looking at the time period for the Proto-Saharans when they ruled in Sumer. Delmun, the Indus Valley civilization, was an ancient civilization located in present-day Pakistan, India. It was a key trading hub in the Persian Gulf region, connecting Mesopotamia, Sumer, with the Indus Valley civilization. Delmun is mentioned in Sumerian and Akkadian texts as a prosperous trading partner. It was known for its trade in valuable commodities such as pearls, copper, and dates. Lapis lazuli was also in a sense, they said the trade in lapis lazuli. A lot of it came from the Indus Valley too. You know, they always, like to say that the ancient Indians worshipped cows. They didn't worship cattle. It was just in the sense that that's represented Alma or Mao. Magan is another ancient civilization. Magan was ancient Kemet or Egypt. It was known for its copper mines, which were highly valued in the ancient world. Sumerian texts mention Magan as a source of copper, which was a crucial metal for making tools and weapons during the Bronze Age. So you can know this picture is kind of maybe, the picture is representing how maybe in a sense these ancient people in Egypt would have built their civilization. They would have also been connecting this beautiful grain. This grain is the millet. Millet was the source in a sense for them. Millet was the most cultivated crop among the Proto-Saharans. Meluha is a term found in ancient Mesopotamian texts, often associated with the civilization of ancient Punt. Punt was called God's land by the ancient Egyptians of Magan or Kemet. Again, you can see some of these black people in Meluha, collecting the millet to be made into breads and other food stuff. The relationship between these civilizations was primarily based on trade. Sumer relied on the resources imported from regions like Dilmun, the Indus Valley, and Magan, Kemet, precious metals, stones, timber, and other goods. Dilmun, in turn, served as a crucial intermediary between Sumer and the distant Indus Valley civilization, facilitating trade along maritime routes in the Persian Gulf. The exact nature of the relationship between Sumer and Meluha, Punt, or modern Ethiopia is less clear due to limited archaeological evidence and the challenges of interpreting ancient texts. Again, in a sense, this is maybe one of the boats they would have used. This boat style is based upon some of the reconstruction of the boats that we find on the rock inscriptions from the Sahara. They may have had boats that would have resembled this boat. Overall, these civilizations were interconnected through trade networks that spanned vast distances, contributing to the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultural influences across the ancient Near East and the Indus Valley. The trade items from Sumer obtained from Magan, Meluha, and Delmun varied depending on the resources and products each region specialized in. Here's a breakdown. Magan, Kemet, ancient Egypt, was renowned for its copper mines. Copper was a highly valued metal in the ancient world, used extensively for making tools. Sumer relied on copper imports from Magan to support its metalworking industries and to meet the demand for bronze, an alloy of copper and tin. Here you can see some people loading some copper instruments and millet onto boats that they would have sailed. Again, in a sense, remember they had sails, but they also had boats in a sense with oars to make sure that if there wasn't any wind, that these Proto-Saharan people, these Cushites, because they called themselves Cushites or Hawks, and these people, in a sense, they were trading among each other, and they spoke similar languages. Meluha, Punt, or modern Ethiopia. Meluha in ancient texts was known for its trade in precious stones such as lapis lazuli, carnelian, and turquoise. These gemstones were highly prized by the Sumerians for jewelry making and religious purposes. Meluha was also renowned for its fine textiles, including cotton fabrics. Sumer likely imported textiles from Meluha for clothing and luxury items. This is the boat. This is one of the Egyptian boats or Kushite boats that they go back to when the Egyptians made their trip to ancient Pont. Again, if you notice in this boat is recorded on I think at Hatshepsut's temple. But again and again, you can look at this boat and you see it. You see that this boat included not only sails, but it also included oars. This way, in the sense that there was no wind, it wasn't going to stop these early Kushites in the River Valley area from trading with one another. Delmoon, the Indus Valley, located in modern-day India, Pakistan, was famous for the pearl fisheries in the Persian Gulf. Pearls were luxury items highly sought after by the elites of Sumerian society. They were used for adornment as symbols of wealth and status, and in religious ceremonies. Delmoon was also known for its date palms and the production of dates. Dates were an important food staple and source of nutrition in the ancient Near East. Sumer likely imported dates from Delmoon to supplement its agricultural produce. You see, also the people at Delmoon, these black people at Delmoon, they made some beautiful Indus Valley seals. You see, but again, this was in a sense like maybe New York or San Francisco. But again, we only like to see civilizations in terms of what the European tells us civilizations look like. But we find these civilizations carried on by black people were very, in a sense, cosmopolitan and very instrumental in terms of trading with each other so that they could have valuable trade items to make their life much better. In addition to these specific items, there would have been a broader exchange of goods between the River Valley civilizations, Magan, Meluha, Sumer, and Delmoon. Civilizations including raw materials, finished goods, foodstuffs, and possibly even technological innovations and cultural influences. These trade relationships were vital for sustaining the economy and fostering cultural exchange in the ancient world. These are the main River Valley civilizations: Sumer, Delmoon, Magan, and Meluha. But let's look at this. Look at this. Whoa. What is this? Wait a minute. What? Let's look at this. There's a great difficulty with the black name, says Harrison. Is the impossibility in many cases of deciding whether the ethnonym is Old English black, or the Old English black, bright, white, pale. What? Wait. Read that again, Dr. Winters. Black means bright, white, pale? What? Yes. You've been told a lie. In Old English, black meant bright, white, luminescence, you see? And in fact, most of the kings, yes, the Scottish kings, they were mainly called nigger. Yeah, they had Hugh Nigger. He appears as a charter witness in Angus in 1178, you see? Then they had Simon the Bishop of Moray, and he was a nigger. Yes, nigger! What are you trying to tell us, Clyde? This is what I'm trying to tell you. That black was not the name. Black was not just a crayon. In Old English, black meant bright, white, shining. The Greco-Romans, they said in a sense that Ethiop meant black, shining. What are you telling me, Clyde? That we've been lied to? What are you telling me, Clyde? That we've been told that black is just a crayon when black really, in a sense, represented brightness, whiteness. Yes, shining. And that these kings who were called Duba or blacks, they were called nigger. Get out of here, Clyde. What no kings called nigger? Oh, wait a minute. What? Henry II, the nigger? born 1017. What? What? He ruled for 39 years. He ruled the Hungarians. And then you had Henry the Nigger, the Duke of Saxony. He ruled in Bavaria. Look, 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 look! The nigger. These kings were called the nigger. They ruled in Scotland. I already showed you how they ruled in Scotland. Then these nigger kings, they was over there in Germany, in Lower Saxony. They was ruling in Bavaria. Get out of here, Clyde. What? Wait a minute. Who? Henry III, the nigger? The Duke of Bavaria? What does it say? The Saxon emperors in the 10th century. Page 479. Henry III, nigger, Duke of Bavaria. And then right of his wife had the title of Duke of Saxony, but was not really Duke, for on the death of his father-in-law, Magnus, he became the emperor. Gentry V. Look at Bavaria. Look at Saxony. Look at the damn crest. Look. Do you see, family? Do you see that black means shining? Black means bright. Do you see in a sense that they called their kings? They called them kings. Their kings were nigger. Yes, nigger. And yet they use nigger to denigrate us. They use the word nigger and black to put us down. Do you see how the Europeans flipped the script on us? Do you see how they flipped the script? They knew that black means shining, not only in a sense in character and intellect and color, but it also meant in a sense that you were black, but you were shining because you were luminescence. See? Their kings, they called them nigger, but they wanted you in a sense. They wanted you not to know that in Old English it means in a sense bright, that black meant bright, white. They wanted you to feel denigrated. They want you to know that their kings, not only the kings in Scotland, but the kings in Bavaria, the kings in Germany, the kings in Saxony were called nigger. Yes. They were called nigger. See? They didn't want you to know that because they wanted you to always believe that you're just ignorant. And they took the names of the Scottish kings. They took the names of the kings in Germany, Bavaria, Saxony, the names of their kings, which was nigger. And they used those terms to denigrate us. They used the term black to make us look down on us. See? Here's some of the medieval Moorish family names: Agus, Ag, Andrews, Conway, Conyers, Littleton, McClellan, Moore, Morris, Marnabout, Norton, O'Conry. Yes. Listen, here's a book called The Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles. You can find out about this in my book. I wrote a book called Blacks in Europe. You can find out there too, but look. In the Chronicles of the Kings of Abba, in the Scoto-Latin text, these kings, in a sense, of Scotland were called nigger. Nigger is the literal Latin translation of Gaelic dub. Duff Macmillan, Duff Malcolm was called Den, the Black, a direct translation of his name to modern English. A Black Malcolm's son. He was king of Alba. He was son of Malcolm I, who succeeded to the throne when Induff was killed in 962. This text highlights the earliest African rulers, Black rulers of Scotland, Southern Ireland, and the United Kingdom. A chronicle that focuses on the Alpin dynasty from Kenneth MacAlpin and his great-great-grandson Kenneth Dub of Kenneth the Nigger and Bagduff or Duffy, whose descendants of different appearances continue. Yes. If you go to chat GPT, if you try to ask If you try to go and ask AI about the nigger kings, they can't tell you because they don't want to they didn't put that. But here's the book that talks about it. There's the ring that you can see it when you go to the internet. See? Here's the double, the nigger kings of Scotland of the House of Appin. These were the Scottish kings, Kenneth MacAlpin, Donald I, Constantine Aled, Giric, Echohad, Donald II, Constantine II, Malcolm I, Indulf, Dub, Colin, Kenneth. Look at that. See? Look at these kings all the way from 843 to 1034. These are the nigger kings of Scotland from the House of Alpin. See? They'll put down Dub, but in the Latin, when they wrote, they didn't call them Dub. They called them nigger. See? In summary, there were 4 black populations that spread civilization around the world. They were the Australians, the Khoisan, Anu, and modern blacks, or the Proto-Saharans. It was these blacks who founded civilization on every continent on earth. We are created because we are B1, brilliant first. Yes, stop! When you say you're B1, that means you're black first. But at the same time, we know that black from the Greco-Romans, from the Old English, means shining, brilliant. So when you're B1, you're not only in a sense black first, you're also brilliant first. Yes, that's who we are. Go to my Patreon to see the slides. You can find me at Twitter, Dr. Clyde Winters 8. You can follow me at TikTok.com, Clyde Winters 3, to view my shorts. I also have some shorts on this YouTube channel. Please check that box right now. Put down that, make sure that you're a subscriber. You know, they may have took some of my subscribers away, so check that. You know, use that pointer and check the subscription. Show that you're subscribed, you see. Look at some of my other videos on this site. They can tell you about who and what we are. And also, I want you to get my book. Get my book, The History and Culture of the Black Aboriginals. This is a very important book. It is 500 pages. Get the hardback edition. The hardback edition, I have in a sense an index to the hardback edition. The paperback and the other one and the ebook, they don't have the index. But if you get the hardback edition, you will, in a sense, find the index to this book. Hey, I've just written a new book, History and Culture of the Black Aboriginals of America. Yes, I've written a new book. This book is called History and Culture of Afro-Americans. It's about the Aboriginal Americans. It's about the first people who inhabited America. Many people don't know about our great culture, this super culture that we created, but I discuss this book. In 489 pages, you'll find out so much information, great information, about, in a sense, what the Aboriginal foundational Black Americans did. You're going to see, in a sense, that Black people contributed much here. When the first Europeans got here, that's what they found. Yes, they found Black Aboriginals inhabiting the Americas. It was the Black Aboriginals that built this country. This is why you had to get my book. Get my book, History and Culture of the Aboriginal Blacks of the Americas. In this book, you will find out the truth. You will know what we created. You will know who we are. Get this book. Buy it now. Book, like, it's an encyclopedia. It's over 500 pages. 500 pages. It talks about the pyramids we built in North America, not down in Mexico. It talks about our stone roads. It talks about our culture. It talks about our religion. It talks about the languages that these Black people spoke. It tells you where the origin of Nietzsche. A lot of people greet themselves as Nietzsche. I explain the origin of Nietzsche. I explain the Occaneechi language, the language in a sense that was used as a lingua franca in much of North Carolina and also, in a sense, Virginia. If you want to find more about the Ma and the Cushites, get my book, Before Egypt, the Magan Federation, Africa's First Civilization. You can also get my book, English Language, The Mountains of the Moon, The Niger-Congo Speakers, and The Origin of Egypt. And get my book on the Kushites. Get these books if you want to learn out more about these civilizations. You can order them at Amazon.com. If you want to learn more about the Black people in Asia, get my book, The Ancient Black Civilizations of Asia. If you want to find out about the Anu and the original, part of the original Anu civilization that goes back 10,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago, get my book, The Dawn of Writing, Decipherment of the Thinite Dispaleo Tablet, and the Gobekli Tepe Pillars. The Gobekli Tepe is a site that the Anu built, and this site is over 10,000 years old. Get this book if you want to find out more. If you want to find about other Black civilizations, the latest information, get my 2-volume series, Black History Gym Essays. And naturally, if you want to know about every Black civilization on every continent that ever existed, get my book, The World History of the Black Race. In this book, you not only see pictures, but you also find out how they got there and the civilizations that they developed in these areas. Let the researcher do the research. Let the researcher do the research. B1. Yes. You're B1. But you're not only B1, I've already shown you that B1, that Black doesn't just mean in a sense Black. So when you're B1, you're Black first. But not only are you B1 and Black first, when you're B1, you're brilliant first, because Black people are brilliant. Black people are shining. That's probably one of the reasons why the ancient Egyptians referred to themselves as Blacks. We see that the Greco-Romans, they used the word Ethiopian, it meant what? Black, but it also meant shining. It also meant brilliant, you see. See, we find in a sense that in the Old English, it meant in a sense white, shining. Black meant white, shining. See, brilliant. So that when you're B1, you're not just Black first. When you're B1, you're also brilliant first. Yes, family. We are, in a sense, Black and brilliant. Yes. Stop thinking about your inferiority. Stop thinking about the fact, in a sense, that you're just, in a sense, you're just some downtrodden crayon. No, Black means more than that. Black, in a sense, is a term that means shining, illumination, and things like that. Okay, my introduction was done by Yoshimot. Please support Yoshimot. As you've seen some of these commercials I've shown and other things, that Yoshimot Productions can help you to make your website, make your drawings very important. Please support Yoshimot. You know, Carol says that Dr. Winters, the correct pronunciation is nigger, not nigger. Well, I pronounce it with an I, which is nigger. You know, but you can pronounce it either any way you wish. You know, it's very important to remember, just as Eve says, brilliant first, Black first. Yes, we're brilliant first and we're Black first. Another Carol makes another point. We do not need to call ourselves by the term nigger. You shouldn't if you wish. You shouldn't call yourself by that name. You shouldn't call yourself by that name. But now we see that the white man gave us that name in a sense, so he wanted to denigrate. So he wanted to flip the script. He wanted to flip the script. He wanted to teach you, how you doing, Jalen Prasad? How you doing, Gerard? How you doing, CGI Kid Productions? They, in a sense, they wanted to trick us. They didn't want you to know that just like CGID CGI Kid Production said, the Greco-Romans were black and they were proud to be black. Yeah, some of them were black, but in a sense is that they were proud of the black people. They were proud of their ancestors, proud of where they came from, and that this is something that's very important, what you do today. Here's a message. Doorbell said, what would Sheila Nagig break down etymologically in Sumerian? The pink people claim the meaning is unknown, but it has to be a Phoenician or Sumerian origin. Okay, Nagig, it's when you look at Na means Na means people, nation. So in a sense, it would be the people, people in terms of Sumerian. I sent you an email, Dorvell, that really breaks it down. How you doing, in a sense, Greg Hawkins? How you doing, Nadia? How you doing, Dee Frazier? Zachary Holmes? What up, though? Jalen said that they always pretend like black people are afraid of lakes and water, as if we couldn't sail. But you can see it in the art. Yeah, you can see it in the art. We were never afraid of water. I mean, even today. I mean, when I was growing up, I lived on 47th Street, but my kids, they grew up on the far south side, where it was a lot of pools and stuff. And so all of my kids, they learned how to swim when they were little, and by going to the pool that was in the neighborhood, And so that's it. Sirius B said, Dr. Winter watched the documentary about the Homo naledi supposedly found in South African caves. Yeah, that's another. They found so many archaic, but again, these people, these archaic people, they would have had the large brows. Sirius B said, any thoughts on this? It was a Netflix documentary. Not sure of the validity. I don't know. Yeah, but they do the artifacts do show that they found anatomically modern humans dating back to 250, 300,000 years. Most of these people, in a sense, most of these artifacts come from South Africa. They also found, it's also an artifact in North Africa, but it was labeled back in the day in a Neanderthal. But now they try to say that it's an anatomically modern human. That may not necessarily be true. Thanks, got it. Okay. Jones said, let's look at this. Jones said, many early depictions of various Christ and venerated figures were drawn as black with halos. Could this have been a representative of their brightness, shining, which comes to me? Yes. Now we understand this. Joan, I didn't really understand this, why they would put that over there, but that's what it was, because black means shining. If it wasn't for Dorvell, he'd been beating this into my head. Boom, boom. Dr. Withers, stop saying black, just be black. Black means brilliant, shining. I got it, Dorvell. I got it, yes. Thank you. Dorvell, thanks. I got it. Oh, I got it. Boom, boom. Very interesting. I'm hearing the Knights of Templar Henry and William Sinclair Negroes, by the way, came to the Americas in 1200 and left artifacts in Rhode Island. I don't know. They may have. I don't know about that. Mike David, how you doing? What up, though? I don't know about that. Okay, here's Wes McGee. I put my order for the book you spoke about, Black Aboriginals, Dr. Winters. Dr. Winters, you are setting our minds on fire, brother. Thank you, Wes McGee. That's what it's all about. That's why I'm here every week. But I'm hoping that people will take my book, the history and culture of the Black Aboriginals. This book, look at this, 500 pages, over 500 pages. This thing has an index. This book, it doesn't talk about the FBAs or African Americans being slaves of the Cherokee. No, the original Cherokee, the original 5 tribes, the Algonquin, the Iroquois. These are all black. These were names of black nations. Get my book. Learn our real history. Learn our real history. You see, back in the day when my mama said, Clyde, you have Choctaw heritage, I said to myself, Mama, I don't want to hear that ish. I want to hear about the African kingdoms, because the Indians on TV, they had all these cowboy movies on, Bonanza, Bat Matheson. They had all these, and the Indians was always losing. I didn't want to hear about the Indians who were losers. I want to think about the Africans, the African kingdoms, Male, Songhay. But now, see, I've written this book. So our children will know our real history, that our children will know that we have a great history here, that our children will know that we built the pyramids here, that we had roads here made of stone. Get this book. Every black, foundational black American in America has Aboriginal ancestry. They need to have this book in their home so their children will see their heritage, will see their history. We are a unique people. Yes, we are unique people. We are unique people because we went through an ethnogenesis. And this ethnogenesis that we went through, what it was in a sense is that we were the products of black Aboriginals, the black Irish chattel slaves. I'm not talking about those white Irish that came over after the potato famine, and sub-Saharan Africans. We went through an ethnogenesis. That means in the sense that we came out of 3 ethnic groups. That's why we're the new Egyptians today. That's why we're the ones who are so powerful, you see, and we're powerful because we have all this knowledge. You see, we have the knowledge of the people that built ancient Egypt, the people who built Sumer, the people who built London Bridge, the Tower of London, the people in a sense who built Alhambra in Spain. We got all this knowledge here. We are unique people. That's why foundational black people set the world on fire today. That's why they steal our music, our culture, our language. Because we are the new Egyptians. We are the new Egyptians. Mike Davis said, your short world history book and the world history of the black race, Dr. Clyde Winters, man, fall asleep reading those books after working 10 hours a day. Great information books. Yes, I'm glad you need to get some sleep. I can't hardly sleep. Every day I wake up at 3:30. Yesterday I was talking with, and people talked about magnesium. So I'm going to start taking some magnesium. So then in a sense, maybe that'll help me to get some sleep. But I'm going to tell you guys, you see, I never wanted to write 40 books. I really wrote 50, but I never wanted to write 40 books. But I keep having to write these books because I have to, in a sense, I have to keep on, in a sense, going through our history. I'm writing these books so you guys out there will take on the mantle. You'll take up I wrote these books so to give you a blueprint so you can write better and more history. Dorvale, he says, an ethnogenesis, yeah, we did go through an ethnogenocide, but when they committed genocide against us, they did it against our mind. It was too many of us to kill off. They couldn't kill us all off. But what they did is that they committed genocide in our mind. They made us lose knowledge of who and what we were, you see. They made us lose knowledge of who and what we were, Dorvale. They had to do this. They had to do this because, see, they couldn't kill us all off. And because they couldn't kill us all off, they changed the history books. They changed the meaning. What they would do is that every time they would take away the land of the black tribes, the Choctaw, Cherokee, all of that. Whenever they would take away their land, they would get a land to some red Indians and say, now you take on that land. Then the black Indians in the Midwest, they send red Indians out there to pretend that they're those Indians. Look at this. A good example is the Seminoles. You guys always think I'm lying. Look at the Seminoles. The Seminoles, in a sense, the Seminoles were mainly descendants of African slaves. And yet, if you find the Seminoles out in Oklahoma, they're white today. If you find the Seminoles out in Florida, they're red man today. You see, what they did is that they took away our history and they gave these red men and the white Indians, the $5 white Indians and the red Indians, they gave them a little card, and this card say, you are a Indian. See, but hey, my mama told me who the fuck I was. Oh, I'm sorry. Damn straight, baby. I didn't need the European to tell me who I was. See, you know, like Carol said, give Dr. Winters books for birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas gifts. Yes, give the books to people. Give the books. You know. And Sirius B, whoa, Sirius B, damn. Sirius B, I owe you a dinner. Sirius B said, I have history and culture of the Black Aboriginals of the United States. I'm excited to get started at the finishing. We are not just Africans. Great work. So far, I have 20 of your books. Thank you, Sirius B. Thank you for supporting me. Okay, Dorvell says, I no longer call them white. I call them pink, like Stephen Biko. Yeah, they are the pink, man. But remember, in a sense, is that they had to steal it because you see how in Old English, that black also meant white. See? But they wanted to steal that because, see, white's supposed to be purity. White's supposed to be all of this. But they're pink, you see. They can't stand the sun and all that type of stuff. But see, you know, it's so much that we had to do. And thank you for allowing me to come into your home. Thank you for looking at this video. But I'd be even more thankful if some of you guys, in a sense, would take up the mantle. I'm doing a series where I'm gonna try to move up progressively in terms of the spread of Black people and our history, because see, there's so much that we've been told that is a lie. You see, it is so much that we've been told that is a lie. You know, and this is why I have to do these programs every week, and this is why I come to you, and I talk to you every week about being B1. It's very important. See, understand now that we know. I went through the Greco-Romans, I went through Old English, and now we know that when you're B1, you're not just Black first. When you're B1, you're brilliant first. Thank you, Dorvell, for ramming this into my head. Yes, it was hard for me to accept. I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to accept the fact that Black meant shining, bright, all that type of stuff. I didn't want to accept that. But Dorvell, you put it in my head and I accept it. You know, when you're B1, you're Black first. When you're B1, you're brilliant first. When you're B1, you're Black and brilliant. You know, I would appreciate it if you guys would put in the chat. Put B1 in the chat. Let everybody know we're B1. Put it in the chat, baby. Put it in the chat. Thank you guys for coming. And always remember, in a sense, is that you have to support the people who do. It's scary out there. It's hard out there. But support the people. Support the people who are out there fighting for us. You guys have a good night. Good evening.
If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. Vampires, they prey on your fears and stay away. Vampires. control your life, may feel